morning. I'm Tricia Bear, and I'm the host for the Guardian of Services program. And this morning we have Johanna White with us from Durant. She's with the Visiting Angels program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I had a few questions for you today. So what's the mission of the Visiting Angels program?
So Visiting Angels is a national company, but we have an office in Durant. And really our mission, me specifically, is to serve with the greatest love and care and to keep people, mainly seniors, in their home as long as possible. Because as we age, things change, and really truly being at home and being with family is the most important. And so I love being able to help keep them at home and not get stuck in a facility like a nursing home or assisted living. So really that's our mission.
Okay. What services does the Visiting Angels provide?
So we are non-medical, and that's probably the biggest difference that people want to know. So what does that mean? So I like to think of it as whatever you would do for your parents or your grandparents, that's what we do. So anywhere from errands, making meals, laundry, dishes, making the bed, that's a big thing. Just any of those things, driving to the doctor's office. Okay. The things, just think about whatever you would do for your mom or dad if they just had surgery or, they're not able to get out. That's what we do. And that's what our caregivers love to do. And that really helps people stay at home longer.
And then they can go pick up medication for them or whatever.
Yeah. We can take people to procedures. We're taking a gentleman to surgery here in the next couple weeks. But doctor's offices, anything that they need, even if that means a Walmart run to pick up groceries, that type of thing. Yep.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, do veterans need to be enrolled in the VA healthcare system prior to using your program?
So a couple ways that we can be used is, and a good chunk of our clients are private pay, so you can just pay out of pocket for it. But the nice thing is for veterans, the VA has a benefit called Homemaker and Home Health Aid, which they call it HHA. And what that is that's a benefit to veterans, and it's only based on their years of service. So it's not based on, their financial status or anything like that. It's based on years of service and the need for help. Okay. So if you have a need, like you can't drive anymore, or it's hard for you to mop the floor, get down to clean the bathroom, or it's hard for you to stand up for long periods and make a meal, then you're eligible as a veteran for this. And if your doctor approves you hours, they will say, I just got a call this morning from the Dallas VA. We have a gentleman and he's a veteran and he's approved for 11 hours a week. So for 11 hours a week, we can come in, do all those services that we just talked about that we do, and we handle the payment. The VA pays us. So the veteran never sees a bill, never sees a charge, nothing. And it's such a great benefit for veterans as they get older and have served and really deserve this benefit. Not a lot of people know about it. You have to ask the physician for it, okay. But it's a big deal. So that's how the veterans get this service paid for.
Okay, and that's the VA primary care manager is the one who would authorize
Correct.
The care from your company.
Correct. The doctor, when they go to the doctor, really what they're looking at is what activities of daily living is harder to do than used to be. Okay. So if it's driving, if it's, bending over, if it's getting dressed, some veterans need help with even bathing. All of those things determine how many hours they're eligible for.
Okay, so activities of daily living, is there a certain amount they need to have? Like, do they need help bathing and dressing?
Nope. As long as they have one activity of daily living, but usually if you have one, you have many. I don't know that I've ever seen, I'm a nurse, and I don't know that I've ever seen one that just has one specific activity need, because there's all these things that go along with things they could do 5 to 10 years ago, And now it's just harder. The pain is increased, standing's harder, vision changes, hearing changes, all of those things makes them eligible to get hours approved from the VA. But yes, you're exactly right. It's their provider, their case manager that gets this service approved.
Okay, and that for the program's for the veteran only, not the dependent of that spouse.
That is correct.
Okay.
So they're approved for that veteran.
Okay.
So if the veteran is 100% able to do everything and they have a spouse that's having issues, like they've had a stroke or been in the hospital, this would not pay for that.
Okay.
This specific benefit. Correct.
Right. But then if the surviving spouse, the veteran passes away, if the surviving spouse is eligible for aid and attendance, then the VA would give her, I think it's about $350 a month to hire someone to come in and help. Correct?
So aid and attendance is the only benefit that a surviving spouse can get. And that is based on a couple factors, their financial need, their activity of daily livings, is that affected? Okay. Also, eyesight can fall in it. So you have to just meet one of 3 or 4 qualifications for that. So you don't have to have all of them. And then they get a check. And actually, it's up to $1,500 a month
I didn't know
that they can get. Now, it's all based on what your need is. And I think financial qualifications determine the amount that you get. So
Okay.
the more you need, that type of thing. But house and car does not factor into your assets.
Okay.
So, aid and attendance is great for those spouses that need that extra help after the veteran has passed away.
Okay. Good job. What's the difference in the Visiting Angels Homemaker program and then the home health aid benefit?
So there's really not a Visiting Angels program. We are credentialed through the VA and approved to be able to provide when they're eligible for the homemaker and home health aid. So if you're approved for those hours, any of the Visiting Angels offices can help provide an aid for those hours to help with whatever they need from housekeeping. Actually, we have a decent percentage of veterans that don't need personal care like bathing and stuff, but they need help with housekeeping, making meals, running those errands. And so primarily that's what we help with a lot with the veterans. So it's not really a Visiting Angels special program, but we are approved with the VA that we can provide those services to the veteran.
Okay, and then we're in Henrietta today, so is Henrietta considered in the area for Durant? Because I know your office is at Durant.
Yep, we cover clients in Durant, Kingston, Ardmore, and McAllister. So I pretty much will go 30 to 45 minutes around the McAllister area to help. But if you're closer to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Norman, there is Visiting Angels offices there that are not mine, but I know those owners very well. And truly, Visiting Angels has a heart for veterans. It's just amazing to see all the different offices work together to provide care for veterans that have a need.
And wasn't your father in the military?
So my grandfather was in the military, and we were very close. He was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge and lost his best friend right next to him. And he actually went back to Colorado Springs for rehab, and that's where he met his wife, my grandma. She was his nurse. Oh, wow. So he always, and veterans will understand, but he always told this story about them, and they would go to chapel together, but he could not ask her back to walk her back because she was a lieutenant and I was just a private. So she had to ask him to walk her back to her barracks because he was underranked by her. We heard that story so many times. He would go, I was just a lowly private. She was a lieutenant. And she would just smile every time he told that story. So very special place for veterans in my heart. It just makes me a veteran we're helping that we started with last week. He connected right with the caregiver, and I've heard from both of them how they're just so happy to be helping each other. She gets to hear his stories and she gets to help him, and he's it just going so good. So it's stuff like that just makes me very happy.
That's awesome. We talked just a minute ago about what kind of services are offered by each program. Is there any other services, like, say, for example, if they need someone to watch them, like
Companionship?
or just watch
Sitter
them
service?
while the other caregiver is gone or something? Is that
So
something?
there is a benefit called respite.
Okay.
And obviously you would have to have family that's caring for the veteran or a spouse that's living with the veteran. And I do have a veteran now that he gets homemaker and home health aid benefits, but he also gets respite hours,
Okay.
which is able, then his wife is able to go to her doctor's appointments and her type of thing. And we just go and make sure he has dementia. So we make sure he's safe. He has his meal, that type of thing. So there is that benefit, which is very important because families of veterans and spouses of veterans that are helping them so much, it's easy to get burned out and it's easy to get behind on your stuff. So the VA does provide respite service, but we also too would be able to do, sometimes veterans just need to talk, and not be alone all week long, and so we provide that service as well.
Okay. I think we talked about that, the monthly pension rates for aid and attendance. That's what you were saying is based on your income.
I'm going to look this up because I got to make sure I'm telling you exactly right. So aid and attendance rates, so a veteran and a spouse can get aid and attendance rates, and that's going to be like low 2000s a month is the max. Now that's still based on need. So, if you have a lot of assets, you're not going to get as much as those that don't, that maybe just get their check every month. The veteran can get about $2,000 if they don't have a spouse and it's just them, or the surviving spouse can get about $1,500. The one that we're helping right now that gets aid and attendance, she gets about $400 a month. So it is a lot based on their need, but it's also based on their financial status too.
Okay. I'm skipping.
And the how you apply for that, there's a form that you fill out, but if you're a surviving spouse, you do not have to go to the VA doctor, obviously, because you're not a veteran to have the doctor.
Right.
Your primary care doctor would fill out why you are applying for aid and attendance. So what activities are you having issue with? We're helping a lady right now. She's legally blind. And her assets. So both of those things qualify her to get aid and attendance, which is going to help her out a lot because she can't even afford to have someone drive her to the eye doctor or the dentist. Those are some of the things we help her with.
Okay. And I think you just answered that as far as getting paid from the VA is actually going to pay for your services, but then aid and attendance is where they actually pay the veteran the money in his account.
Correct.
Or her account.
So it's directly deposited every month in their account. And that really gives the veteran or the surviving spouse some flexibility because they might just need a housekeeper. They might need someone to pay someone to drive them errands. They can use it for whatever they want. They're not turning in anything. They're just getting that check to use to help them with those tasks. So they can hire whoever they want, which does kind of make it nice because we all know things change. Some months they might have lots of doctor's appointments. They need that money to go for that. And some months they might not have a doctor's appointment. So it's very flexible for what their actual needs are.
Okay. How is this program different from the VA caregiver program?
So I don't know a whole lot about that program. I know some. I've talked to one of the facilitators that's in Ardmore with that program. So my understanding is that is paid for, it's if you live with the veteran and you're a spouse or a family member that's giving direct care, that is a benefit that you can get with that. It's separate than the homemaker and home health aid. It's separate from aid and attendant. So it's almost like a third window. There's not a lot of people know about that. And so I don't know what that's based on. I don't know if it's based on financial need or that. I just have one spouse that gets that, but she also gets some respite and then that homemaker there, but she does not get aid and attendance. Okay. So I'm not 100%. I don't know all the details of that program because I don't think it's used as much as aid and attendance and the homemaker and home health aid.
Yeah, I do know a little bit about the caregiver program. Basically, the veteran has to have a VA disability to apply for it, and he also needs to have a certain amount of need for the daily living skills, or walking, feeding, bathing. They do need to have some of those needs.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep, activities of daily living.
Yeah,
Yep.
But the criteria is they have to have a 70% combined total VA disability rating, and then they have to have at least one condition of 60% or two conditions with one of them being 40%.
And so that's all going to be determined by the physician, the percentages.
Yeah, well, by the VA, when they do a VA claim, they assign them a percentage of disability based on what they're claiming. So they do have to meet that 70% combined rating, and then have either one condition 60% or two conditions with one being 40%. And on that, there's two different tier levels. So like one level is $1,700 a month, and the other one is $2,700 a month.
Well, that's very helpful for the spouses and family that are taking care of.
Yeah, because they're taking care of them anyway. So it's a way to help the spouse or whoever's taking care of that veteran.
And so I've seen, some spouses, the one that's actually getting that benefit, he is 100% disabled. And then I think his hearing is so many percent so that's probably his second thing that he qualifies for. But I have seen that families have had to quit their jobs because they're doing so much care for the veteran that they're unable to work, and then the veterans stay home alone. So that money is huge to be able to help the veteran and not get put in a nursing home or in a facility, that type of thing.
Okay. Do you know what the various ways are to enroll in the VA healthcare?
So there's 3 ways to enroll. The first and best way is to contact a local veteran service officer. They know the forms, they know who to contact, all of that. We've had a couple instances where the veteran had dementia, so it could not be done over the phone. And so the veteran service officer actually helped them with the power of attorney form and all of those forms so they could get signed up. That's the first way. So I always recommend start with their veteran service officer. The second way is to call. And if you have your DD-214 and you have an active email address or an account that you can pull up, whether it's yours or your family's, then you can call and do it over the phone. And actually who you talk to is a veteran service officer. And so, and I don't know, I have that phone number too, but that's something I don't know if you can list, if you want to list at the end too. But so veteran service officer, calling. And the last way, and the way I would never recommend for anybody to do it, is just filling out a form and mailing it. Because if you miss one thing on the form, it holds up the whole process. And by the time they look at the form and get back to you, it's just, I think that's more frustrating to veterans and families. So I don't personally recommend that. But I do think the phone call works. I always encourage, if they're going to call, and I've had multiple veterans call and it go through just fine. I've sat with them while they've been on the phone. You want to make sure you have a physician appointment before you get off the phone, because the veteran service officer can get that set up with you if you call them.
Okay.
Because that appointment is how you get approved for homemaker and home health aid. And truly, I think that's probably the easiest one for a veteran, because it's solely based on your service and your need for help with your activities of daily living. Where aid and attendance looks at financial and looks at all this stuff. But that one, and then once you're approved, they reauthorize it every 6 months based on your need. So we've seen some veterans that don't have as much need go down in hours, but a lot of veterans, if you have, a stroke or you have another medical event, you actually may get an increase in hours, and it's all based on your need.
Okay, and that was aid and attendance?
No, that's the homemaker and home health aid.
Okay.
And that is why when you're signing up for benefits, and what a lot of veterans don't know, so I would encourage any veteran out there that is watching this and learning, sign up for benefits. It does not mean you have to use benefits. It does not mean you have to have a need right this second. But just like the veteran that I was talking about just a few minutes ago that has dementia, he retired from 20 years in the Air Force, never signed up. He had his own doctor, private doctor, health insurance and stuff. Well, now he needs services. And it's been a long time getting him signed up because he has dementia and can't answer questions. Right. If he had signed up years before, even if he had never made a doctor's appointment, he'd be in the system. Then all they would have had to do is make an appointment. So the process becomes a lot longer. And when you need help, you need help. You don't have 3 or 4 months to wait to get help. And we all know the VA's not super fast because they're very overwhelmed. And, and so if you sign up now, the other thing I've heard from veterans is, I don't need it, there's no sense. But what you don't know is every time you sign up as a veteran, just to get in the system, not that you're using it, over $400,000 goes into the pot to the veterans that are using it. So I encourage veterans that even if you say, well, I don't need it, get in the system, because someday you might, or your spouse might, but you are actually putting money into the pot that helps the veterans that currently do need it. So you may never use that benefit in your whole life. You helped other veterans. And what I know about veterans, and about veterans, is they help there's a bond. Veterans help veterans, and that's a big deal. And so that would be my one encouragement for today is, even if you don't think you need the benefits, you are helping somebody else.
To sign up for the Visiting Angels program. If a veteran doesn't have their DD 214, I'm just telling you about this, but
please do, yeah.
They can go online to vetrex.archives.gov, and they can go on there, answer about 15 questions. In the comments field is what they would put on as far as needing a DD 214 or military medical records. And then once they hit submit, the National Archives is going to email them back their records. And they have 30 days to download the records once they get that email from it's called at nara.gov. So once they get that email, they've got 30 days to download the records or print them, whatever they want to do with them. Or otherwise they would have to do the paper SF-180. So you get them a lot quicker that way. You have them on digits already when they email them to you, and I believe it only takes a couple weeks for them to email them to someone. And
I know a lot of veterans have their DD 214, but that's huge. If you don't have it, I would say go ahead and get it and put it in a safe place. It's just as important as your Social Security card, just as important as your birth certificate is your record of how you served our country.
Yes, and then once you get done answering the questions, they're going to give you an order number, and that order number is actually the password that you need. Once you click on that link in the email, that is your password. Okay. Is the order number.
Nice.
You put in the password, and then you get access to your records. But you got to remember you have to do it within 30 days or you're going to have to do the paper
through.
form, because I've tried to do it before when people forgot to check their email and it won't let you. You can try it, but most of the time it won't let you, and then you have to do the SF-180 and mail it in, and it takes a lot longer to get. So you have to check your emails. Yes. Here's my pen. Okay. So on the qualification, you were talking about service. It is not based on income as far as your program.
For the homemaker and home health aid, it is based on your years of service. And so if you were enlisted, so if you were enlisted before September 7th of 1980 and you have any duty, you qualify for this, as long as you have a need, like activity of daily living need.
Okay.
If it's after in a sense, 1980. If it's after 1980, you have to have served 24 continuous months in active duty to be eligible. Now, there is, like, obviously, if you were discharged because of a disability or you got injured, that, changes that. But if you had no injury and you had 24 months, then you automatically qualify for this program. It's based on your need. Like, what do you need help with? Meals or errands or driving or, stuff around the house. So yeah, it truly looks at that's why that DD 214 is so important, to look at how many months of service with you.
Right.
There is, if you were in the National Reserves, there is a couple things that you have to look at, that they would look at for that and determine if you qualify or not.
Okay. So if they were in the National Guard or the Reserves, they wouldn't necessarily have to have the 2 years, or is that in addition?
Correct. No, it depends if they were actively called up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's how many years I believe they were in the reserves.
Okay.
So that, because it's so different, because they were in the reserves, I don't think you have to have the 24 months if you were called up in active duty.
Okay.
But that's why if you get into the system, they'll be able to tell you if you qualify or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Tricia, I wanted to share that phone number that veterans can call, because the 3 ways to sign up is with a VSO officer. They can also call 404-828-5257, and I'm going to repeat that one more time, 404-828-5257, which then you would speak to a veteran service officer, or you can fill out the form. So one of the top 2, I would encourage you to sign up, and then you just need your DD 214. You need, and then you need to have an email address, and then they will walk you through it. And then don't get off the phone without having an appointment with your physician, with the VA physician. They can sign you up over the phone.
Okay. So they fill out the form. So the veteran doesn't necessarily have to go to the VA hospital and get their ID until they show up for their appointment, I guess.
Correct.
Then you get your VA ID, but you can actually sign up for the program without even going to the VA.
So
getting
you
ID
have to,
at first.
well, you're signing up to get into the VA health benefits.
Right.
And once you get that physician appointment, correct, then that's the only time. You don't have to go in prior to that. You just go to your physician. You'll already be in the system. It takes about 1 hour to sign up over the phone. They ask all these questions. They ask questions on your DD 214. They look at what your benefits and all of that, and then you get that physician appointment, and that's the exam to get approved for the homemaker and home health aid benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then there's a couple other benefits that a lot of veterans may not be aware of. So if you have steps going into your house, the front door, I guess the back, if you have steps going into your house, you can go through your primary care manager, and they're going to do a referral to the prosthetics department. And then they will actually, if you're approved, they're going to actually pay for someone to come out and put a ramp on the front of your house if you have steps and it's hard to get in your house. Now, I have one, and the ramp's probably 20 feet long because they gradually go down on the ramp. So they actually paid for someone to come out and put a ramp on the front of our house. The other benefit is if you have a bathtub and it's hard for you to get into the bathtub, you can do what they call a HISA grant. And if you're 100% VA disabled, they'll pay up to $6,800 to have a walk-in shower put in your house and have the bathtub taken out if you have trouble getting into the bathtub.
That's huge.
I believe if you're 50% disabled or less, it's about $2,000 to have a shower put in your house instead of the bathtub. Now, they won't just come and build a bathroom on your house, but if you already have a bathtub and you want to get a shower put in, a walk-in shower, and if it's approved based on your disabilities, then the VA will pay for that.
Wow.
And if you need half the money up front, like my tile guide needs half the money up front for the materials, then you can also do a form and they'll pay half of it up front to pay the contractor. And then at the end, you have to take pictures of it at the end also. And then they'll pay the contractor the remaining amount, they'll pay you, and then you pay the contractor. So all the money comes to you if it's approved, and then you pay the contractor. But that's a good benefit to have,
huge.
Especially if you have a chance of falling in your shower because you have neuropathy, your leg's numb, and you can't feel your leg. So that's a huge benefit that a lot of veterans aren't aware of. And the HISA packet is also through your primary care manager. They'll do a referral to prosthetics, and then the prosthetics department will mail you a HISA packet.
Okay.
Which is to have approval to get that work done. And so you would need quotes from whoever you choose. You'll need quotes from the contractor of how much it's going to cost. If you get the ramp done, then they actually send out a person to do the ramp once it's approved. So you don't find the contractor for the ramp, they find the contractor and they pay them directly.
Oh, I love that.
So, but as far as the walk-in shower,
sometimes that's the hard thing, is find a contractor
that can do it and it's not booked up for a couple months, and that they're good contractors. So basically those are two benefits I wanted you all to know about that is available to you. If you're 100% disabled, they'll pay $6,800 a month for the walk-in shower. And then if you're 50% disabled, they'll pay $2,000.
That's great.
My other question, does veterans with a service-connected disability automatically qualify? And that's not always the case if they don't need assisted.
So correct. So if they first look at your service record, and when you do that, and then it goes from there based on that. But obviously, the more of your percentage of disability, the more hours and the more need you're going to have. If you serve 24 months and you don't have a big need, you're not going to get hardly any hours, if any. But if so it's all kind of proportional, if that makes sense.
Okay. I just wanted to put some information out there too. A lot of veterans think on their VA disability, if they have 0%, that's a denial. That is not a denial. That's actually half the battle, is proving that your service-connected disability is service-connected. A lot of people think it's 0%, they denied me, I'll give up. No, that is, they've acknowledged it's service-connected, so if your conditions get worse down the road and you have evidence to prove it, that's how you get paid monetarily for that condition. So I am a service officer for the VFW and the DAV. So if you need my assistance, I'm down there by appointment because I also do the cooking show called the Culinary Command Post. My number is 479-414-0952. And please call me because, like you were saying, there's things that veteran service officers know as far as what form to use, how the process works. I've been doing this for 6 years. So it's good to have that liaison before you do your paperwork yourself, because there's all kinds of different rules, and usually the VSO is going to know what those rules are.
And which paper to fill out. All of those things, you guys are the experts, and that's very helpful.
And which form, which you have to go to va.gov and get their most recent form, and you have to access that through Google Chrome, or it'll give you the old form. So you have to have the current form. Is just one of the things that we look for when we're helping veterans. Once a veteran signs up for the Visiting Angel program, how long does it take the veteran to find out if they're approved? Do you know?
So I'll just give you some experience the last couple weeks. We had a gentleman that saw his provider, and within 10 days that we had a phone call that said, we have this gentleman, he is approved for 13 hours a week. Are you able to help him, is what and actually, so we said yes, and I already knew about this gentleman because I was helping him get signed up for benefits, and we said yes, and then I called the family to let them know that, hey, you've been approved. We knew before they knew. So, and she was like, the daughter was like, oh, we didn't even know. We just saw the physician. So it does take a couple weeks for the doctor to fill out the forms. They get it to the caseworker. They get it all in the system. And whoever you're associated with, it's Muskogee or Tulsa or Dallas or Oklahoma City, then once they do that, they will reach out to us or to any of the agencies that can help with those. And they said, are you able to help this veteran? So if I say, no, I don't have any caregivers, then they move to the next agency because their really truly goal is to get the veteran serviced, type of thing. So a couple weeks after they see the physician, that's pretty typical.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
What number can a veteran call to get more information on your Visiting Angel program?
So our office number is 580-360-0400 and call with questions. I have probably 13 or 14 veterans right now that are actively in the process of getting their appointment with their physician, making sure they are all set up with what questions the physician's going to answer, because it is a little intimidating. And I know veterans, they were like, everything's fine. And I'm like, okay, are you able to drive anymore? Well, I can't drive anymore, but everything's fine. So I kind of coach them on being honest with their doctor about where they really are. Can they do the same things they could do 5 years ago? And a lot of them are like, well, not exactly. That's the one that needs the help. And so we'll do a lot of coaching. So call anytime with questions. We will help you get set up with Tricia, or if you're in a different area, whoever veteran service officer we can get you set up with, and we'll walk you through the process.
You was telling me on the phone the other day that one veteran said he could drive. Well,
Yeah, it was him, and then his son was next to him, and they had called us, and I said, well, he's like, oh, I'm pretty good. And I said, okay, can you drive? And he goes, well, I can drive. And his son whips and looks at him and he goes, Dad, tell her what? He's like, well, I can drive 10 minutes. Then I get dizzy, so I have to pull off. And then once the dizziness goes away, I drive for 10 more minutes. And I'm like, what do you do? So you need help with that. He's like, well, yeah, it would be really nice to have someone help me drive. But he was going to tell the doctor, yeah, I can still drive. So the veterans, they don't want to put a burden on anyone else and stuff. And the son was like, Dad, tell her the truth. So it was really sweet how he was trying to be still tough. But I was like, oh my.
Do you have a website for Visiting Angels that they?
You know what? You can type in Visiting Angels Durant,
okay,
and we'll come right up,
okay,
and stuff. But we have a kind of a wide area. Excited to serve in such a wide area. I didn't know how many veterans needed help, and there's a lot of veterans, a lot of non-veterans too. But it's been exciting. Within the last week, we've signed up 4 veterans that we're going to be helping. So it's just exciting, and we're happy to fill the need for these people that served our country. It's amazing.
We really appreciate your help, because you're right. There's things that we used to do, but we can't. I can't. I do 2 cooking classes a month, but I can't stand on my feet all day. Mm-hmm. So that works for me and my pace of what I can do. And I went to college to be a chef, but I knew I couldn't stand on my feet all day. So that's why I do what I do. I teach cooking classes for free and let veterans learn how to cook, or kids, whoever, learn how to cook for free. So that works for my physical limitations. And so I'm happy about that.
We're all getting older.
I'm starting to feel it. So, Is there any other information that you wanted to tell the audience about?
I just say talk to your VSO, get signed up, learn what benefits are out there, because I think the biggest thing I've run into is just lack of knowledge, that I didn't even know that could be, that we could get that benefit. And so I'll be honest, 15 years ago when my grandparents started going down in health, my grandma, who was a lieutenant in the Army, she had Parkinson's and dementia. And we paid for 24-hour care for all the time that we couldn't be there to help her because I had to keep my job. We paid for all that care. I had no idea. And I'm a nurse. My mom's a nurse. We had no idea that was even a benefit that would have helped both of them, for someone that was 100% disabled, with his leg. And then my grandma who served, I had no idea that was a benefit. So, that's probably my biggest passion right now, is just getting information out to veterans to let them know that it's out there. Not that everybody needs it, but just to know it's even out there for if they do need it, that they can get that benefit.
Yeah, I honestly, I've been doing veteran service officer work for 6 years, and I didn't even know about it until I went to my DAV meeting. I think you were there telling us about it. So I didn't even know until I went to that meeting about the program, and then the next day I seen it on TV. I had no idea that was on there, but yeah, it's weird how they don't know about their benefits, and they're entitled to those benefits.
It's no different than if you have a 401k through an employee, or those type of benefits. This is a benefit that they earned for serving us. They actually did a greater thing by, risking their life serving us. This is a benefit. Don't look at it as like a handout or anything like that.
Right.
They earned it. And so they should be able to use it when they need it.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today and making us very informed of this program that a lot of veterans aren't aware of. So we appreciate you coming down and helping us and helping our veterans be more educated on their benefits.
Thanks for inviting me. It was an honor to be here.
No problem.